Hi folks, I'm Matt and welcome to My Expanded Universe, a show where I go through the entire EU in chronological order as best I know how. Folks, we're going to talk about 3 short stories today, and they're all a little bit fun, I guess. The first one is Third Time Pays for It All. Now this was in the Dark Horse Presents first issue, number 1 issue. Dark Horse Presents was just a bunch of, hey, here's some short stories from all of our ongoing comic books or comic book characters that you know. And Randy Stradley wrote this story, and of course it involves Kir Kanos, or his alter ego Kennix Kill. And he is tracking down a guy wanted for murder. Now that's like part of the story, but the whole time he's wondering where his old flame, Maris Sin, is, and will he ever see her again? Spoiler alert, he will. And he also is plotting his revenge on Lucan Leia, you know, for killing the Emperor, his boss and everything. Now, this was brought in, it takes place, I think, 2 years after Crimson Empire 2. And basically, it's just priming the engine to let you know that they're going to come out with Crimson Empire 3 at this time, trying to ramp up excitement for a very delayed comic book. So anyway, that's that short story. The next one comes from Star Wars Tales number 8. Yay! You know what I think of Star Wars Tales. Anyway, it's written by Henry Gilroy, and it's called The Tale of Luke's Hand. Woo! Now, it seems kind of cheesy. In fact, when I first saw the title, I was like, oh no, here we go, another terrible story. It's not too bad. Basically, young little Anakin, he's like 3 or 4 years old. He won't go to bed, and so Han goes in there to tell him a story. And he wants to know about why Uncle Luke wears a glove, you know, what's wrong with Uncle Luke's hand. And so he tells the wild, made up, it's completely made up story, and kind of comical at times, about what happened to Uncle Luke's hand. It's hokey, but it's Han. Remember, you got to understand, it's Han telling this story to Anakin and making up just a fantasy world around this big story. And you know, Anakin's like, "Whoa, Uncle Luke's hand is all that and stuff." And it's not that good of a story, but it is kind of funny because as a dad, you make up stories for your kids, or so I'm told. I haven't done that with my kids, but my little brother has made up stories, you know, to tell his kid at night, and you know, based on somewhat true facts, and then he embellishes completely on it. So that's what Han is doing here. So it makes sense that dad would come up with a story like that, and yeah, it's an okay story. The third and final story comes from Star Wars Tales number 11. It's called Tall Tales. And this one is written by Scott Alley. Basically, there are 4 card players who are sitting around telling stories, and they're telling these tall tales about Obi-Wan Kenobi and Han and Chewie and Leia and everything. And basically, Han turns out to be one of the card players, and of course, Han is going to shoot someone in that cantina, because Han always shoots first. The story is not that good. You know, it's just people telling tall tales about these legendary figures within the Star Wars universe. You're like, okay, Star Wars Tales, you had nothing better to do. That's nice to know. But the coolest thing about this one is that there's a picture, and I'm going to show it here, of 3 Ewoks drinking at the bar. And man, look at those guys. Those guys look rough, man. I wouldn't want to get in the middle of those. Yeah, I know. They look super scary. What do you mean you know them? I kind of thought that was funny. Tales would do stuff like that. They'd throw little things in there, throw Jawas doing something stupid, or Ugnaughts or something. They'd always throw something funny in the background, and one panel was given to 3 Ewoks drinking at a bar, and I just thought, yeah, Ewoks, baby. Now the thing is, I wish they would have told their story. That's what we need. We need the tale of 3 wandering Ewoks who hit up bars and just want to get into fights, you know. Maybe it's like a feral Ewok gang, you know, who just going around just picking fights, like, you know, Dr. Evanson and Panda Boba, you know, in A New Hope. You know, maybe they're just like, hey, I don't like you. He doesn't like you either. Yab, 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 yab. See how my imagination works? Now there's a Star Wars tale we should be telling, let me tell you. But anyway, other than that, the story is not that good. Of course it's not. Star Wars Tales. Star Wars Tales is for the most part forgettable. It's weird because those things were like, I remember the first few or so were like 64 pages long. There are these big thick books. You're thinking, oh man, there should be a lot of good stuff in that. And you'd squeeze it out and there'd be maybe one okay story. maybe sometimes two. It was really just a disappointment, but I'm not going to go into that because I've gone into that several times in previous videos. All right, folks, well, that is all the time I have for this video. I'll see you next time with another story.
Yep, yep. Sinaga ba fingawa? No. Nó khá tụi ngay sợ à, tôi sợ à, nó bắt xí bắt đi. Yêu khá không bị yêu khá không ba. Mà ta bảo xin nag sen cái nag tan nhiều bị nag đi chắc không có. Aku dunia bảo. Oh iya.